Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Michael Moses, and today we're going to talk about competition. Well, we're going to talk about many different subjects, but we will spend a lot of our time on competition. The reason why I want to talk about competition is because it was a very big part of my life. And I feel like it influenced a lot of my actions, my goals, my desires, my dreams. And even today, going forward, I like to see competition, but in a brand new way. And also, one other thing is that you can notice that I am wearing sunglasses. I'm not wearing them for fun. Of course, we're indoors. It's just that I have some kind of, I have uveitis at the moment. So I suffered from it a little bit when I was younger, but I forgot about it for like between 15 and 20 years, something like that. And it came back last year. So I just try to stay away from those at the moment. But we're in a really sunny home where I live at the moment. So it's quite hard to stay without too much light. And even when I'm filming, what I'll do probably is just take this off because it's an additional light. It makes it better for the video, but I think you can understand right now that I don't need this kind of light source at the moment. I just want to feel a little bit better. It will give me less of an headache at the end of the day. And I'm going to see a doctor tomorrow. I've got my appointment for tomorrow, so don't worry. I will be okay. Probably. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and I've read a little bit on it, but I don't feel like we can really get a good sense of what needs to be done when you get a certain disease, even though we can research quite a lot on the internet. And well, I don't want to stress myself too much about it. There are experts that are here just for that. So I will let them do their job while I do mine. And well, so today I want to talk about competition, how it influenced my life. And I know there are many different ways to think about competition. A lot of people just say it's kind of negative because you're always comparing yourself to others. But at the same time, it's quite good in the sense that you can measure yourself and you can build upon what's working and change what is not. So it started when I was really young. Well, I feel like everyone, when he's a child, feels a little bit of competition. It can be against a sister or a brother. It can be against your friends at school or just even your parents. You can do some kind of fights or competitions at home with different aspects of life. And most of the time, it is inside of play sessions. I guess it all started with my dad, because my dad has always had a lot of fun playing and competing. And I think he transmitted that to me. And I will thank him for that, of course. If you watch this, thank you, Dad. It's really something that I appreciate today. I'm able to improve and I can use those skills in pretty much any domain I want. So that's really, really fun and really interesting. But yeah, it started with him. We were playing a lot. And a lot of the time, he was trying to push me to do better, to become better. I remember in elementary school, I had a hard time with, everyone knows dodgeball, right? If you're French, it's a ballon chasseur. And when I was young, I was kind of scared to receive the ball. I had not a real hard time throwing it, but receiving it, just being confident in my ability to receive the ball was quite hard. And I remember he was taking a little bit of time after school from time to time and just showing me how I could improve at catching the ball. Because when you catch the ball in dodgeball, actually at my school, I don't know the official rules for adult sports, but when you catched the ball when I was playing, it was reviving one of your teammates. So if you were really good at catching the ball, you were pretty much invincible. It was a better skill than being able to throw it better. So all in all, I think it was really interesting. And even at this very young age, I was able to compete in life, outside of home, but also in home. So when I was playing different board games or even video games. And I think this is the part of my life where everything clicked and I understood that I like getting better and it's useful for many different reasons. So for example, we were spending a lot of our summers at a very nice lake, with a big beach, and we were playing in the sand. And most of the time, when I was going there was always a moment where I wanted to make a little bit of money. And my dad said to me, you can get cans from other people. So I was just going around the beaches and collecting cans. And then I was going to sell them in the machines where you put the cans and you get some cents for it. I think it was 5 cents per can at the time. And well, since I had nothing really better to do, I was doing that. But the more I was doing it, the faster I was getting, and the more I was able to convince people to give me their cans. Because the can machine, the recycling can machine, was just a few steps away from the beach. So if you were a little bit economical or conservative of your money, you could just go there. But a lot of people just didn't know because they were coming from time to time, not every year like I was. So I knew this little trick, and this made me kind of competitive in the environment. Pretty much no one at the beach was making money while I was. And I was seeing this as a great opportunity. And most of the time when I was going back to the beach, I was trying to do this exact activity. And eventually it was enabling me to buy, for example, a cone of ice cream or something like that. And of course, it's not necessarily a good investment for a business, but it was giving me a lot of pleasure, a lot of fun. And the other kids didn't have this money, except if their parents were giving it to them or if they did the same. But if they had to start over against my 3 years experience, of course, I was going to be a lot better and faster to get the cans than them. So I think that's when I really understood the power of competition and how I was able to improve in different aspects of life. And after that, I started putting most of my practice in the things I loved. And that was video games. And of course, we can talk about addictions or, distractions. Of course, playing video games is not really productive in any ways. How I see it is that when you do an activity just for the sake of it or for fun, and you're not seeking any real improvement, you're staying in some kind of comfort zone. When you're in comfort zone, you're not really pushing your boundary for fear or trying to get better. But when you put in intentional efforts and you try to push your limits to do things better or to do things quicker, you're putting a lot of stress on your mind. But this is actually what I think competition is all about, is to keep yourself stressed over certain duration that I hope is healthy for you. Because of course, if you put too much stress on yourself, you can go towards depression or anxiety or just being really stressed out and not feeling so well. But I think stress in a small, manageable dose is pretty good because it's what makes you able to improve in a shorter amount of time. I realized that a long time ago, but a great example about that is the series I was following around gaming. So there is this really great player of the game Warcraft 3, which is a real-time strategy game. You play on computer and you build a base and you try to eliminate the opponent player. And this guy, Grubby is called. He's really, really great. He's been in the scene for a lot of time. He probably won a lot of tournaments in the past. And I don't really know his esports story, but I think he's someone who's really inspiring in the scene. He was trying to teach a few big streamers recently how to play Warcraft 3 as soon as possible. It was toward a tournament between streamers, and it was really interesting to see his approach. He was trying to make them understand the concepts which are pretty hard to master. Becoming great at Warcraft 3 is like becoming really great at chess and at piano at the same time, because you want to have the best strategy possible in your mind, like theoretically, but you also want to have the dexterity and the ability to make your movements with your mouse and your keyboard, to make your units move as you wished you were making them move with your theories. So it's kind of a mix of both, and I think it's quite hard to execute a flawless game. I think it's actually humanly impossible. And the reason why I think this is so interesting is because I was seeing Grubby teach to those guys and girls, and he was really trying to push them to their maximum, because at one point they had the theory, they had a lot of information that received over the few weeks or the few days, and then they had to apply it. But for example, if they were able to put in like 100 actions per minute, which is the number of times they click or press the keyboards, well, they were just able to get to a certain skill plateau. They were not able to go further and become better. And so he was trying to push them, but without stressing them too much, because this is a really stressful game, because every time you do something wrong or you don't do something fast enough, it puts you back. It puts you back and it puts you back again. And then it pushes the opponent forward. So even though you have the best strategy, if you're not able to execute it quickly as possible, you're going to give your opponent a lot of ground. And I think it was something really eye-opening that I learned a long time ago, but that was represented by Grubby in those coaching sessions. Of course, this is a very intense experience for the streamers, but at the same time, the same thing can be applied to pretty much anything. For example, if you're trying to learn how to cook, you can have the best recipe in the world, but if you're not able to execute it like he does in the video, and it's a lot of the time it's a matter of technique or a matter of seconds, knowledge gaps here and there. So for example, if you cook chicken, there are many ways to cook chicken, but if you put it in the oven and you don't use the right ingredients, or you don't cut it at the right place, or you just have a different oven than the one in the recipe, well, everything can be changed, because the chicken will be cooked and it will be like, you can eat it without getting a disease or such, but it will not have the same texture, or it will not have the same effect. And there are a lot of different domains. Well, pretty much anything you think about. You can see cycling or running, or you can think about creating YouTube videos like this one. And those can be really stressful. And I'm trying to find a process by which it's not too stressful, but I'm still a little bit competitive in the environment. And I think the best way I can do that is to be myself, because no one can be better at being myself than me. So that's why I try to do those kind of video, but at the same time, it takes me a lot of time to just review and cut at the right places. So eventually, when I listen to a lot of those videos, when I cut it, and I do a lot more, so for example, in 100 videos, I will be a lot better just performing in front of the camera. Not performing in the way that I'm not showing my true self, but just the way I phrase my sentences, in the way I express myself. It will be a lot clearer for you to understand what I'm trying to say. And also it will take me a lot less time to shoot those videos. But if I want to really improve, I have to create more. I have to just press record and create those kinds of work sessions with myself and with you guys, with the audience. I want to create some kind of community eventually, create some kind of conversation between us. So that's what I wanted to talk about with competition. So I got a lot into video games. I was playing with my dad, like I said, but eventually it translated with playing with my friends, because my dad, well, he had other occupations and he didn't have just the whole day to play games with children. So I was playing with my friends and we played many different games. If you're interested, there's, I think the first real one that we all played together was RuneScape, which was not particularly competitive at the time, but eventually became a lot more competitive. Today, you can compete in PvP also. And so eventually, when I started playing other games also, like Warcraft, World of Warcraft, StarCraft. And the moment when I was really hooked and pushed myself further was when my parents purchased me StarCraft 2, sorry. The moment I became a lot more competitive was when I started playing StarCraft 2. And the reason is quite simple. It's at the same time I was beginning to see people competing online. And it was really interesting. It was amazing to see those people at the same age as me, or even a little bit older, a little bit younger, just competing and becoming better and better at games and showing their skills, showcasing their skills online. It was quite amazing. I think it was kind of the golden age for me, because strategy games, a lot of weight in the balance. Today we have a lot of Street Fighters, Valorant, Counter-Strike, League of Legends, and it's not that these are bad games. I I like playing those games from time to time, but there's always a part of me that likes watching more strategic games. And well, this was my first real experience, and how I was going towards it is that there was some kind of chats in the game. So when you were launching the game, there was a big chat, a general chat where everyone was speaking, and you could queue up against other people, another random person, which had like matchmaking rating to make it fair in a way, but to also challenge you to become better. So at the time there was even leagues, I think. There was like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, and master, grandmaster, something like that, I think. I don't really remember how StarCraft was at the beginning, but I was playing a lot with my friends. Not a lot of my friends were playing, but I was finding friends online also. So I was just going into the general chat, like I told you, and I was talking to people. When I was playing against people, I was also chatting with them, trying to make contact there. And eventually we were able to get better, talk about the game. And it was really interesting to see this cohesion, this community come together. And I think this was really the moment when I loved competing. And I got to a point where I was still a teenager and I was becoming really, really good. I was happy with my performance. I knew a lot of people around the game that were playing a little bit like me and trying to push ourselves. And then they introduced some kind of tournament formats. The top 1% of players were able to compete in different tournaments, but I was a lot below that. I was probably in the top 10 or top 8% of players, something like that. So I didn't really have a chance to compete, and I didn't seek it. I didn't feel like I was good enough. Looking back at it, I probably would have been able to qualify somewhere, but at the same time, maybe not, I don't know, but it would have been a really interesting experience to go toward. But what happened is that I was lagging a little bit behind because I did not have contacts with the scene, the professional scene, and I didn't really know how to become better at this point. I put in a lot of hours, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of hours into the game. I was playing pretty clean. I was trying to base my gameplay and style around the best players online. And it was really interesting, really fun to play. But it was also frustrating because I was at a plateau. I didn't really know how to improve at this point. And it's like what I was saying earlier. I think I had something like 100 or 130 APM, which is actions per minute. And it didn't feel like I needed more actions per minute at the time to perform better, but actually it was. It probably was the most important thing I would be able to improve, but I didn't know at the time. So I was focusing my attention on many different things. I was overanalyzing, and well, I was just not quick enough. Most of the things in life, if you want to become the best social media manager or the best YouTuber or the best pianist or the best guitarist or the best cycler, you have to be able to do the best things that you know how to do, but faster and better, more efficiently. And so that's competition in a way. So I'm just trying to really understand how I can push myself to become better in many different aspects in my life. And that's really what I'm aiming at the moment. What else would I like to talk about in competition? The mental element of it. So like I said earlier, at one point I was at a plateau. I didn't really know how to get better. It created like an unbalance in my mental state. I was not sure if I was able to improve more. And that was frustrating me. It was depressing me. It was saddening me. It was just really hard emotionally because I had a goal, but I didn't know how to attain it. While before I was just able to put more and more hours into it and I was able to improve. But at this point, it became harder. I was noticing that sometimes I was losing and it felt out of my control. Even though now I know the solution, the best thing I would have been able to do at the time was to get myself out of that state of mental fatigue or mental instability. I just needed to let it pass and come back refreshed. to play it. And recently I watched a video, an old video, I think it's like 14 years old. It's a video from Day9, which was actually playing StarCraft in his younger days. He's such a legend. He's a really, really interesting guy. And he was, I think it was called My Life of StarCraft, something like that, a daily vlog that he did. And it's like 1 hour and 50 minutes. If you're interested in any of those subjects, I really encourage you to go and watch him. He's really interesting. And he has a lot of good insight. One of the insights that he gave out in this video is that his mom said at one point that emotions, feelings, they are just chemicals, and that you can just take a pill and make you feel angry or make you feel sad, or the opposite. It's chemicals. So basically, what happens is that if you lose a game, for example, and it makes you angry, a lot of people will just live this angriness and they will go into the next game. And it will be harder and harder. If you never stop for a moment and just calm yourself or let the emotion pass, how can you be at your 100% for the next game? So I think it's kind of a good exercise to do, is to live your emotions without any distractions, to really understand what's happening inside of you, but without really fighting it. It's just, it will pass eventually. And it's hard to do that because today we have so many distractions. We can just, if you lose a game, first of all, you can queue up for another one. You can watch your cell phone, you can watch a video, you can listen to a podcast, you can do so many things to just shut down your mind. And while you are trying to shut down your mind, it's not really what's happening. It's still working out in your unconscious. And especially when the game starts and your podcast stops and you put down your phone, well, it continues and you're still angry, you're still sad, you're still depressed. And so I think it's important to take pauses and to ask yourself the right questions when you're going into an analysis. So I guess analysis is a point I didn't really touch in this video, but yeah, we can talk a little bit about it. Is that anything that you do, for example, you practice your basketball shots, 2 points, 3-point shot, and you're just there on the court and you're throwing and you're throwing. You make sure that you have the right form, you make sure that you shoot from the right line, the right stance and such. But how can you really be sure that you're doing the right thing if you're not able to see yourself externally? So for example, if you bring out a camera or a cell phone, or you go to the park with your friend and you ask them to film you while you take those shots, you're going to be able to review those shots eventually. That's what I mean by analysis. Anything that you do in life can be filmed. So for a very good example with gaming is that a lot of games give you analysis tools to go over your replay. But in the analysis tool, there's always something that's missing in my mind. It's to see you in real life, on your keyboard, on your mouse, or just seeing how you move your mouse or how you move your screen in the game. Because in the replay analysis tools, most of the time it goes back around what was happening in the game, but it was not showing really your mouse movements. It's not showing how you move your screen, but it shows what happened. So what every little character in the map has done. If he sent a spell, if he sent an auto attack, if he decided to move somewhere or somewhere else. So I think replay analysis is really underrated, but replay in everything. So you can, for example, you can cook a chicken with a recipe, again, the chicken, and then you can just think about what happened during the recipe and just, I think I let the chicken cook 2 extra minutes and it was not so good, or I didn't mix enough the sauce, or I mixed it too much, something like that. You can just think about it mindfully. And it's kind of a good way to analyze your performance. And it's going to give you a lot of good recommendations and insights for the future. But at the same time, if you were able to film yourself while you were doing it, if you had a cameraman that was always there by your side and just filming everything you did in your life, well, whoa, you could always review everything that you do, and it would be amazing because you have access to everything. You're able to see pretty much any flaw that you're engaging into. And that's really interesting. Well, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today with competition. It's really a subject that interest me, that I cherish. I don't think anyone should stay away from competition. I think it's actually something really beneficial that we can all engage into. And I see way too much people just staying away from it, staying away from games, and comparing themselves to others. And of course, it's hard because you have to manage some negative emotions from time to time. But if you're just able to see past that and push yourself against yourself while noticing the differences between your performance and the ones of others, but without attributing the fact that you lost or failed to your identity. It's not you that's a failure. You've been able to live through one, and now you're able to adapt for the next time. So it's the same message I think everyone has heard a million times, is that you can only fail when you don't try, something like that. But well, that's pretty much it for today. So keep playing, keep having fun, and keep improving, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.